Hello, good evening, and welcome from wherever you're listening from or viewing from. My name's Elaine Smith, otherwise known as DJ Elaine. Thank you so much for joining us. Got to say thank you for. I'm sitting in for Terry Walker today, and as per usual, we have our wonderful guests on the panel waiting to take your comments and, of course, join into the chat. We've got a packed show lined up for you today, so I hope you can stay with us for the next hour. Welcome to What a Week. Hey, Tony, how you doing?
Big up.
DJ Lane, can I have your autograph?
Hey, Mr. C.
How you doing, darling? You good?
I'm good. Delighted to be on with you guys.
Your face look like it's glowing, girl.
Oh, well, I've just got back from Antigua, the Caribbean, so it's still showing. I was worrying that my tan had gone, actually. Do I still look brown?
No, still there.
You're still there, man. Still there. I was thinking to myself, not British sun do that.
Can't wait to come up. So I've come back and I've been met with all this coloss because I've got to tell you, in the Caribbean, it's so calm. All through the COVID-19, calm. Even with the news, they'll update you with the news. Even when it came down to where we had to lock in, they might as well have said it like this on the news. Well, it seemed like the rest of the world are locked down, so we might as well do it too. So here are the times you can be in and out, and remember to wash your hands. I mean, I did it kind of flippantly, but that's how calm it was. So, you know, coming back to the UK, I've been back about three weeks now. It feels like a bomb has just gone off around me with everything that's been happening. And of course, some of those things we're talking about on today's show, right?
Definitely.
So our first question that we want to pose is, why are the police so heavy-handed on urban block parties and so lenient on thousands of people congregating on beaches outside Liverpool and football stadiums? Any clues?
It's a good point that you make there, DJ Lane. First of all, the block party in Brixton, it seemed like it was under control to me. From what I saw, the little WhatsApp things that I saw, everything looked like it was under control. It looked fine. I don't know if viewers are hearing this, but there seems to be a little background sound there. I'm not too sure where that's coming from. There's a little.
You sound fine.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah, there's definitely something there. I'm not too sure what it is, but anyway. So as I was saying, that it seemed like it was a nice little block party. There was no trouble. Everything was going peaceful. And comparisons to the numbers what we've been seeing in like on Bournemouth Beach and Southend Beach, it was comparable. The social distancing was roughly the same kind of thing. And of course, when Liverpool won the Premiership. And all what was going on in Liverpool, there was no lockdown, there was no police presence there. So to me, it seemed very biased from that point of view.
Do you think though that it's? Do you think they see Black people's gathering as more aggressive than, let's say, for them to feel like they need to come out fully armed? Because I too saw people early in the lockdown out as soon as the sun came out, they were in Hyde Park, and I saw when the police came to them, and what I noticed is that they were all wearing masks. And in fact, on one occasion, they were handing out masks, but it seemed to be a little bit different for Brixton.
Yeah, I think that the stereotype of Black gatherings are always going to bring trouble is still there, despite all that's happening right now with the Black Lives Matter movement going on. You're right. I mean, the police would probably tend to be a bit more heavy-handed with Black people congregating than with white people. Often with football, football fans, all the criticism would come afterwards. But block parties and events, the police will actually turn up. And obviously we saw, we've seen in a couple of situations how obviously the crowd did not take too kindly to that and started bottling the police, and the police had to run. And I get the sense, I get the sense with people now, they're starting to get fed up of the lockdown. And I think their frustrations now are boiling over into, look, we want to gather together, and we're tired of all this, and this is what's happening.
Yeah, and you know what, and also, sorry, Lane. I was saying also as well with that block party, it seems to me that there's something must have happened to have triggered that reaction towards the police, and I think there's a bit of a story that's not being told there, because I don't think the police just turned up and the youth them just started to chase them away. Something must have happened in order for them to react that way with the police, and I just don't think that story's being told. But I'm going to try and find out.
Well, you know, you could be right that a particular incident happened. But do you not think, though, that with everything that's happening and what we're seeing on Facebook was enough to trigger that reaction to the police?
Well, I think depending. I mean, if the police singled out one particular person for arrest with no justified means, then I think that part of Brixton, Angel Town, they are very much a community where they're not going to watch police brutalize or take liberties with one of their own, and they will let the police know that we're not too happy about what you've just done. And I think that, you know,
I get the impression as well. Sorry to cut you, but I just want to know what you think about this. I get the impression that with our today's youths, they don't seem to be scared at all, because in our day we were more manageable. It would seem that these youths aren't so manageable.
I don't know. You see, the thing is, Elaine, you know, you look good for your age and everything. So I'm thinking by that statement, that means you must have been born in the 80s. You must have been born in the 80s, because I've got vivid memories of when the police tried to take liberties. You know, we had the Toxteth riots, we had the Brixton riots, we had the Broadwater Farm riots, and these weren't really riots as such. They started off as a protest to the way how police were treating us. So we have a history of this experience with the police, when we've had enough of them treating us a certain way that we will respond back with, you know, what only Western society seems to understand, which is protesting to the fullest.
Can I ask you this then? With Sadiq Khan being an ethnic minority himself, do you think that he should have a better understanding with the black youths?
No.
What do you make of his understanding? Do you think he's understanding the youths at all?
No. I mean, that's not that. I don't think that's his concern, to be honest with you. Obviously, he's the mayor of London, and part of his remit is law and order and keeping London under control. So I don't think he sympathises anyway. And to be fair, one has to ask. I mean, what procedures did the youngsters go through to actually put that event on? I mean, you know, it wasn't you know, unlike, for example, football fans who gather ad hoc and then start making a load of noise. Obviously, speakers and everything was brought out to play music or whatever. So if you did that at any time of the year, quite frankly, you probably should expect the police to come around, because that's you know, that's seen as disturbing the peace. If that was a licensed function, or if it was a private function and the police came there, then that's a different story.
I've got a question here. It says, Sadiq speculates localized lockdowns may have to be implemented if COVID death numbers continues to spike. How would you feel if they locked down your borough?
Well, me personally, I wouldn't be too happy. And my borough, Brent, is the highest number of COVID deaths in London, if not in the UK. If they were to lock down my borough because of something what happened with like Brixton, I'd be upset, because again, I would feel that this is you know, they're trying to proportion blame now to black people's behaviour for this pandemic situation, or the second wave, as they keep on trying to let us be aware of. Oh, the second wave is coming. You know, be careful because of the second wave. It's almost like they're trying to say Jesus is coming, but not Jesus, it's the devil.
you know, when I think about this second wave, the first wave was bad enough, but obviously it didn't really scare people that much because people are outside in their droves. What do you think we can expect for the second wave? What's this second wave? What do you make of this second wave? What's it actually mean?
I think on this occasion we might start seeing some real casualties. Whether you believe this COVID is real or not, you know, there's a reason why the authorities have gone through all the trouble of locking the world down in the way that they have. And we've just seen this week on the news a couple of days ago, the United States, certain states are going back into a lockdown because their numbers are spiking up. And so basically, the second wave could be quite troublesome, and all those morgues that they extended, and you know, stadiums that they're basically converted to hospitals might have to be used, because they're giving us the warning, aren't they? Saying that, well, you know, we're coming into autumn again, and that's likely when that second wave is going to turn up. So it could be quite serious.
Could be really serious. So, I mean, you like myself would have got a load of conspiracy theories coming to your phone, and some scare the life out of you, while some make you think, yeah, not none of COVID-19. I make it up. But going on to Black Lives Matters now. I've got a question here, and it says Indians now want to speak up on police brutality off the back of the Black Lives Matters movement. Are they diluting our plight or highlighting a bigger policy policing problem?
Well, you know, this is always what happens when Black people start talking up for their rights. Sooner or later, somebody else get brave. I want to say, well, what about for we rights too? Or should I say, what about for the I rights too? Sometimes we get invaded by police. Everybody wants, you know, we've seen it already with the civil rights movement. And then it was, you know, no offense taken, it was the women's rights movement, then the gay rights movement, then the transgender rights movement, and then the list goes on and on and on. So hence why, you know, it started off as things like being the race, then it became equality, then it becomes diversity, and then it becomes every color of the rainbow. You know, so I'm not surprised by it. I think that it's a separate issue that they need to look at and not try and band it in with what we're talking about specifically.
I was listening to a video that came through, and it was a clip from one of the breakfast shows on, I think it was BBC London. I think it was one of them, but it was one of those talk shows. And it was an Indian young lady. She must have been in her 30s, in between 30 and 40. And she spoke passionately about her community. And she's very upset with her community because she's saying that she remembers when we stuck by them, and now it's time for them to stick by us, and how much money we spend with them. They should not just go into their house and not say anything. If I have the link, I will somehow post it here so that you can all hear it. But I really welcomed her voice. So do you think that when people are speaking up for us in that way, is it them taking a limelight, or are they marching side by side?
You know, I think that if people speak for us, I think it's a good thing. Let's face it. We are the least influential peoples in this country. So everybody else, regardless of when they got here, basically have more influence financially, politically. So if people speak on our behalf, then it's welcome. But the point being that you mentioned earlier with regard to speaking about Asian issues, you know, you do notice that Black people aren't generally allowed to have their own solitary issue that they can discuss. In some way, they're always linked with other people. So, you know, we touched on this last week about talking about what we call the BAME community, right? If not, then we're lumped in with LGBT. So we never have a solid platform of our own to fight. So that's often the problem. And when we do sort of highlight our issues, someone else comes along and says, well, what about us too? It's just like, you know, like Black Lives Matter, and then we have All Lives Matter. It's a dilution of our issue.
Why does this happen? Why do we not have our own?
Well,
why does this happen? I don't understand it, because I mean, every time I go on to Facebook or wake up in the morning, I'm inundated with very eloquent speakers, Black speakers, men and women. And to me, any one of them can run for Prime Minister. So since we've got such eloquence in our community, why hasn't anyone taken up the baton to be that touchstone for us?
Well, look, I think that some people have. Obviously, if we talk about, like, you know, the Bernie Grants, the Diane Abbotts, the, you know, the Dawn Butlers, if you're going a little bit further back, Michael Boateng, you know, there have been. Was it Michael Boateng? Yeah, I think. Yeah.
No, it's Paul Boateng.
Paul Boateng. That's it. Yeah.
Darcus Howe was saying the other day he could have quite easily have ran.
Exactly. Somebody like Darcus Howe would have been perfect for us. But and then we have somewhere. Well, for me, I'm not too sure about them just yet. You know, we've got color, but me don't know if them. Yeah, me don't know. But I think what it is definitely we need to create people who are fit for that job and who are going to have the integrity from start to finish. Because you know, we've touched on it before, where sometimes once you get into that position, the job changes you. You know, so they've got to be fit for the purpose.
If you were presented with that job, and I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, what would be the first thing you would change or implement? This
one's for you, Tony, boy. If I get that job, then I got kill me. But Tony, you're fit for politics, bro. I'll let you answer this one.
What would you you know, you're all right, so I'm placing you in the room, the Commons, or wherever it is they gather and they stand up and they chat and sit down and go, oh, and Mr. Speaker and all of this.
Okay.
What's the name of that room again? House of Commons.
House of Commons. Well, the first thing is, if we're discussing something which really has a big effect on the people, especially those who are working class and below, then any politician who catch sleeping, getting licks, they're supposed to get licks, public flogging. Yeah, you're there being paid to represent the people, and you're asleep. We see them; they're asleep. No, you're supposed to get licks, public flogging. Yeah, and come out. That's why nah. I'll be like Jesus,
yeah,
you know.
Really
you know, like when Jesus when Jesus went into the church and he saw them doing everything, and he turned up the place. Oh yeah, hold on, go on inside, yes sir. Turn up table and everything. I'll be like that. Yeah, listen, man. No.
Well, what I have noticed about the House of Commons, if I can say this, is that whenever there are Black issues on, there's hardly anyone in the room. Hashtag just saying. I've noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an interest. It's not an interest of theirs. When it comes to MPs' pay rises and holidays and stuff like that, then obviously it's a jam House of Commons. So you know, they have their interests. So as far as Black people are concerned, is it possible to get someone in there who could get to the top and fight for our cause? To be honest, unlikely. One, because the community is not sufficiently cohesive enough and supportive enough of each other to make that happen. And plus, you would need the support of other communities, you know, through the voting structure in order to have a man in there. So I'm not so confident about it. I know we can have MPs, and we have, but as far as a leader and someone to actually change the way this country is run, it's extremely unlikely.
Well, I saw this video. Go on.
No, I just wanted to say with that, but I don't think that is the way how we need to do it, because if you look at something like, again, like the Asian community or the Chinese community or the Jewish community, they don't have anybody in parliament as well. You know, you could say Sadiq Khan and Priti Patel, but really and truly, they don't have anybody in government who are affecting change just for them. How they do it is through their economical structure and power, and I think that's what we need to do. Politics is a loaded game, and whoever goes in there, you've got to play the game. It's through economic power and structure how we get to move things in the right direction for us as a community.
I tend to agree with you, and as you brought it onto economics, I think we've got a video that we're ready to play you, and it's entitled Black Pound Day.
Yes, my people, 7th for the 7th, 2020. It's happening. Don't spend a penny.
7th of July, 2020. Don't spend a penny.
7th of the 7th, hashtag don't spend a penny.
Yo, people, July the 7th, 2020, hashtag don't spend a penny.
Remember the 7th of July, 2020, hashtag don't spend a penny.
7th of the 7th, 2020, hashtag don't spend a penny.
7/7/2020, hashtag don't spend a penny.
7th of the 7th, 2020, hashtag don't spend a penny.
Well, I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I think that if we can all do it, I think this could actually work. Remember Rosa Parks? But it's not my opinion that matters. It's the viewers' opinions. And of course, let's hear what your speculations are. So will it work? Can it work?
Yes, definitely. The only issue is to have a focus that we're driving for, and then the ability to actually quantify how much damage we can do by not spending the black pound on one particular day. If we can sort of get an idea from July the 7th of the effect we're having, then what that will do is encourage us to mobilize even more, because of course one day, while it will have a limited effect, it's not gonna change the world, but it's a good start.
Yeah, and
do as well is that if we're not spending money locally, and we need to buy something, then I'm hoping that we'll seek out our shops, purchase there for that day, and continue to purchase there.
Well, hopefully, you know, that will be the cause. But I just wanted to point something out to our viewers as well, that that is actually the OPP project, which is our penny power, as opposed to Black Pound Day, which was Saturday just gone, which was the 26th, 27th, which it's two separate campaigns. So Black Pound Day was about spending money within the black community only, and the one that's on the 7th of the 7th is about not spending a penny anywhere else. So they're two separate campaigns, but both equally important. I think what you're saying, Elaine, is so correct, that, you know, when you come out of your comfort zone, so, you know, if I quickly want to, I just go to the little convenience store just around the corner. But now on that particular day, I've got to go, I have to think, oh, okay, so where me have to go now if I got to get, and then I'll find one that is black. Oh, okay. And then it's like, oh, I didn't realize. And then you know what happens now? I'll go there a little bit more often, but because the convenience store is just there, I'm not looking at anywhere else. You see what I mean? So it's a good thing, because even on the Saturday, the amount of posts I saw about black businesses was just, I just thought, what? What? Here's oh my God, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. So I think it can work. It must work, and it off it work. Off it.
It has to work. We've been told for many, many years that we are the highest consumers. Period. I don't know where we get the money from, because apparently we're the lowest earners, but the highest consumers. I mean, what is
But
that? How?
partner hand. That's what happened. Partner
Oh,
and the power of the partner.
partner. You lie.
Well, I mean that can happen because a lot of us, our spending priorities are different, and so a lot of other shops will benefit from that spending power. But let me just quickly touch on a point that Mr. C made earlier, which is a good point, because he pointed out about the Jewish community, the Asian community, the Chinese community, and their ability to spend within their own. But one of the things that they have that we don't have is that they're actually their cohesiveness has to do with their spiritual beliefs. You see, the Asians have, they're mostly Hindu, so they have their Hindu temples by which they gather. The Jews, as we know, have their synagogues, and the Chinese have their own sort of spiritual things. But as Black people, we basically, as a whole, we've kind of disregarded the spiritual side of things for the most part, except for if you're a churchgoer. So what that spiritual aspect of a community is actually what creates the cohesiveness. And without that, you are a community, but you're not cohesive, and therefore you can't get behind your candidate, or you for whatever reason you're unable to support your own because of that lack of solidarity, which is based around some form of spirituality, which all these other groups do possess.
Very
do
good
you
point,
think
man.
that, because I still believe that, I mean, for example, in Jamaica, I think there are more churches square mile than anywhere else in the world.
Right.
That's correct.
So as Black people, we still hold on to our spirituality, whether it be Rasta, whether it be Muslim, whatever it is, we still have that. And there's still a lot of churches that congregate with hundreds of people at a time. Do you think they could be doing more then within the community to act as that adhesive that you spoke about? Because it's not as though we're not there. It's not as though we're not spiritual. We are so spiritual. I mean, when I think about my friends and growing up, we return back to the church by the time we're 40 or something liquid hard, and we're run gone to God.
Right.
So it's like,
Man,
it's
rock
true,
your heart.
they're run gone to God.
Right.
So it's not like we might leave church, but really the spirituality don't leave us. Even when we're in a dance and we've got the mic, we're still calling God's name.
Right.
We have that spirituality.
Right.
So what is missing?
Right. It's something a bit. It's something a bit deeper. You see, when you see these other groups, when they see each other, they really understand from the depth of their heart that this is their brother, this is their sister. You see, now we have that to a degree, but unfortunately, we're very we have huge cracks in the way we see each other. Right? We see each other as rivals. We see each other as competitors. You see, that idea that you're my brother and I should put myself out to support you rather than the next man who's just up the road doesn't occur to us, because the spirituality doesn't go deep enough within us. Yes, we are spiritual. Yes, we love God. Yes, we belong to different churches or different religions. But we don't see ourselves as a brotherhood and a sisterhood that come first before everybody else. And that's the problem. And we've been fractured, and we can talk about the history of slavery and, divide and conquer and all the rest of it. But that spirituality is lacking, depth of it, not the spirituality in itself, the depth of it that makes us look at each other, right, as family. We call each other family, we say cuz, we say bro, but these are words. When it comes to the reality of actions, this is where a lot of the time we're not showing that togetherness.
And that's because as well, we haven't got our own narrative. You see, the things what connect us spiritually is from other people's cultures. So again, we've got this fractured spirituality amongst us. Again, especially for us of Caribbean descent, is that our language, what we speak, is not our own. So, we might have more churches in Jamaica than anywhere else in the world, but those churches were built by Europeans with probably a white Jesus in there and used to keep us kind of passive. And even now, when you talk to people like of our parents or our grandparents' age, they've got that slave mentality within their Christianity or their spirituality, which is, oh, well, you know, all I need is a little to get by, or, you know, me no want to be rich. But that's all deeply embedded in the subservient way how church was presented to them, to make them humble, to make them less than, and to always look after death, look for riches and look for the betterment when after you've died.
Yeah,
I tend to agree with you there. Do you think though that would it be our generation or the generation after us where we stop christening our children? Because I think to myself, you know, the fact that a lot of these kids aren't christened, they're running around with no spirit, that they're just, or is it the video games? Because I remember my son saying to me that when these kids are playing these games where they're stabbing and killing and what have you, they actually feel the vibration in their joypad, right? And the music is at such a frequency that has them kind of mad. So if you're sitting there smoking weed, you're sitting there and you're on this frequency and you're playing with this joypad. By the time you go out, the games are so realistic that when you're stabbing a person, it feels like normal. So they're very desensitized. So I come back around to the christening, because when you have got spirituality, to even conceive stabbing somebody, your conscience will get you. Do you follow me? So is it the lack of christening or is it the video games?
I don't think it's the christening per se. I mean, my personal view is that churches are a construct, a European construct that was handed to us, you know, to give us a white God and a white Christ. Whereby if you actually look at the text of the Bible, most of the events took place either in or around Africa. So that's the first problem we have, right? That we actually are dealing with a black God and a black Christ, but we have problems accepting that. So that's our first problem with spirituality. So being in a church is in itself is not the answer. The reality is actually understanding who we are as a people, right? Going back into our own history and look at what the text really says from that perspective. And I think if we understand that, I think then we can start looking at each other very, very differently. It's not about, you see, because we're kind of scattered, where some of us are Christians, some of us are the Nation of Islam, some of us are Rasta. I even know some black people that are Buddhists, right? And obviously everybody swears by their own belief system. Mm-hmm. But what unites us is our history, you see? And it's a history that predates slavery. We only know about the fact that we came here 400 years ago, 500 years ago, and the white man did this and that. But actually, there are books out there and there's information out there to tell us who we were prior to slavery. And I think the answer to our future is hidden in our past. You see, if you don't know the past, you can't tell the future, because the past tells you where things went wrong. And that gives you a clue as to where the future is going to end up. And so it's not a question of, I don't think it's about, you know, the youngsters necessarily being christened in a church, in a construct. But I do agree with the fact that, you know, the games do create desensitization towards human life. A lot of the movies that we listen to, we see death counts, you know, every day. The music that we listen to, a lot of them are very explicit in their violence. So we can become desensitized towards life. In fact, if we have a disagreement with our brother, we might think, well, you know what, I'll kill you. Right? We could think in those terms, even though we may not do it, because of the fact that we're so desensitized. So my point being here is that our cohesiveness and the way we move forward is actually by understanding the history from the past. I'm talking about pre-slavery, right? And if we can understand that, then that can give us a pathway through to the future. Because a lot of the things that we talk about, particularly on this show, sorry, I won't be too long. Sorry, a lot of things we talk about this show in terms of bettering our economics, right, and getting schools, all of this has been tried before, right? We had Black Wall Street, we had Rosewood, we have all these, Tulsa in America. What happened? All burnt down, right? We had these great leaders come, killed off. So this new generation, who forgets history, talk about solutions that have already been tried and failed. So there must come a time for black people where we have to start thinking outside the box with regard to how we're going to move forward and how we're going to better ourselves. And it can't be with trying the same ideas that have failed before. That's it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, round of applause, indeedy. I just wanted to pick up on something and ask you guys something, because it's good, and yes, we do need to know our history and before slavery, because we were kings and queens, and that's important for us to know, and that even during slavery we were still inventing things, and that even something as slight as this, and it's not really slight, but when you think of our national dishes like rice and peas and kulfa and things like that, those came out of the fact that we were slaves and we were given the rubbish to eat, but we still turned it into very tasty meals, and a lot of them are national dishes. So it's good to know all the history, but I can't help thinking that these kids are not scared of anything. They're not scared of anything. In my day, if somebody in our group was to say, oh, they were going to rob that shop or do this or do something out of order, the first thing that would come out of my mouth would be, or my friend's mouth, my mother would kill me. These kids don't seem to be frightened of anything or anyone. How do we draw them back in so that we can teach them about the Black Pound, and how, you know, we can teach them about how we can win this battle? Because look, I'm in my 50s, right? I don't know how old you two are, but it's about working smarter and not harder for me. And the people then that's got to work hard are the kids that are coming up behind us, our children. So how do we get them to understand that this ain't no game, and that we have a lot of experience, and actually the Black Pound is the way forward, and actually that is your brother, that is your cousins? Because when we were growing up, you know, we'd be at this christening, that christening, and when we saw each other out on the street, everybody was our cousin, everybody was our brother, and we was very loving. We could go anywhere we want. How do we bring that back? Because in my opinion, that's what needs to come back.
Well, listen, I think that we have to create new narratives. You know, we spoke about spirituality, and you know, I think even in spirituality, there's clues there as regards to what you need. You know, in the beginning was the word, and that tells you everything. That your words are the most powerfulest thing. So, you know, in tackling violence, number one, our young people, that we have to get them to use new narratives and new words and new phrases, and that's where sometimes the music industry has to play a part, because again, that's some of the early slang that they pick up. So, you know, in our days, if there was big problems with certain people, they may say, with a knife I'll wet you. These guys are now saying, I will shank you. So you saying you would wet somebody is saying that you would slice them. These guys are saying they're shanked, so they're boring people. I'm going to bore him up. I'm going to bore him up. So what you say is what you will do. So the terminologies have to be changed. Number one, we have to create new narratives. So, you know, instead of christening our children, i.e., you know, splashing water, because I think some of these children, just splashing water on their face ain't enough. We need to be given some new narratives. So, you know, it's probably the worst kind of example I could give, but in the film Planet of the Apes, the narrative is ape, do not kill ape. So again, it's something what we have to say, that there might have to be values that we have to say to our young males, especially, or our young females. This is the code of being black. Number one, I shall uplift my brother and my sister. Number two, I'm going to spend my money within my own economy. Number three, you know, I'm going to support blah, blah, blah. We have to create our own 10 commandments of blackness. And this is what needs to be installed into our children and into our communities as a given. you know, because the Asian community, the Jewish community, they have this within their religion to a certain degree. So, you know, if you look at some of the temples in London, for example, in Neasden, they've got that massive temple, which they've built themselves. They didn't say to the government, oh, we want a temple, can you help us? No, they did that themselves. You know, it's amazing what they do through their religion and through their community. When they each family will donate money, and because of that donation, you get a plaque on the wall. But they know this is going back into their community, and that's how they give back to their community and reinforce it. And we have to start creating these words, these commandments, these new languages and words for ourselves, for our community.
Do you think the COVID-19 lock-in has been a blessing in disguise? And dare I say, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but I saw a lot of solidarity amongst the youngsters after that brutal killing of Jesus, what's his name again? Yes, thank you. It's, you know, because before COVID-19, the youth death toll against each other was rising so high. You couldn't switch on, you know, every morning there was another youth dying. Do you think that the two events that I've just mentioned has come as a blessing in disguise? Because it seems to me that the youths are kind of recognizing that actually they need to stick together and work together, because I've seen a lot of videos with them saying that, expressing that.
You know what, we've noticed now that since the lockdown has eased, that the stabbings and shootings have gone up. I don't know what the figures are for our community necessarily, but I'm not sure whether or not, I'm not sure whether or not the murder of George Floyd and all that's gone beyond it has really kind of had the effect that we're probably thinking. I think it's because they're under lockdown, that perhaps some of the murder rate has sort of been kept down because of their lockdown. But going back to something that you said. Going back to something you said earlier, Elaine, with regard to how things were when we were growing up, I think if we, how I remember growing up, things were tough for us too. We didn't have so much gun crime, but knife crime was quite serious. Mm-hmm. And if we're honest with ourselves, we as a generation have a lot to answer for our kids, because we were the ones en masse who decided, you know what, I'm done with this church thing. Once I get my first communion or once I get my confirmation, I'm leaving that thing, and we just went about and started to live our life. And then we went to have children, and we had nothing to pass on to them, right? Other than what our mum taught us with regard to how to behave, right? But the government came along with their games and we change up the music and all the influences that are out there, right? And sort of got a hold of the kids' minds. We were working 2 jobs trying to keep them going. Maybe daddy was there, maybe he was not. So basically now these kids are like in their 30s, big men. How are you going to rope them back in, you see, from a lifetime of basically not receiving any spirituality because we abandoned that, right? And all they've got to look at now, as Mrs. has pointed out, is other communities. But we need to appreciate that the reason why the other communities are successful, because their cohesiveness is around spirituality. They see each other as brothers. They have 10 Jewish commandments. They have 10 Indian commandments, but we don't have 10 black commandments. And so how do you instill that in this current generation of youngsters? I think you've lost them. I think the next generation behind them, those that we're grandparents to, we might have a chance to sort of help them, but they can only have what we have. So if we don't have nothing, we can't give them nothing.
Well, look, it's a good point that you make there, but I'm not too...
Good points there. We've got to wind down now. We don't have much time left, but I think that where we still have some kids who are adhering to their parents' words, during this COVID-19, I think their parents can actually instill something. We can grab a few of them back, because I do believe that a lot of these gangs are made up of some kids who are just following because they have to follow. I think that there's a lot of kids who are probably glad to be able to say they can't go out now. Do you know what I mean? Because mum's got them locked down. So we've got an opportunity right now to grab hold of the kids that we have got and teach them a few things. Do you know what I mean? With a lot of these videos that are coming in, I'm noticing that the family are sitting together. That's another thing that we've lost. We're not eating food around the table with each other. You remember Sundays where we all came together and ate, and it meant that if somebody was pushing their food around the plate, you could look at them and say, but Marjorie, maybe she's pregnant, let me talk to her later. Do you know what I mean? Because you know your kids, and if they're around the dinner table, you can see what they're doing. But now they've all got entertainment in their room, so they're in, they're out, and you hardly see them or have any conversation. So I think that COVID-19, we can actually start the process from now. Sorry, I'm on air.
What was that? Immigration? Was it immigration?
But
Bless.
you know, that's my thoughts on it anyway. That you know, we can do what we can do right here on the spot that we're on. We're in COVID-19 at the moment. You're not really supposed to be out. Your children are probably at home a lot more with you than they have been in the last year. So here is a time for us to actually, you know, say, you know, Tony, I'm gonna fix the car. Come outside, come hold the wrench for me. And do you know what I mean? Just slowly bring your kids back to you. That's what I think. I don't think it's too late.
Look, I think Sonia's just said something wonderful there. She says, we have culture and morals. This is Sonia Kanu. And she says, they require role models, time, focus on their soul development, which is so true. And I think what it is, you know, in addition to that, Sonia, we already do have enough role models. It's just that there's a section of our society where it doesn't get to see them. So, you know, even though Elaine, you spoke about children and families, we've got to remember that for some of these youngsters who are, how can I put it, who are involved with crime, for some of them, their home is not like how our home was. You know, they may have a mother there who loves them dearly. However, she may be a victim of substance misuse. So therefore, she's not fully on point with her child, or her child now has to stop being a child and has to be the adult in that particular household. You know, some of the youth work I've worked, I've seen so many of the young of the child who's heavily involved in crime is because they have to take up the role of being the breadwinner in that family and providing for that family. So even like when we looked at what was the film? Was it Blue Story? Where we saw that the lead character in there, that the mother and the father had passed away, and he was now looking after his two brothers. Why? Because he probably didn't want them to end up in social care and the family to be broken. So the only thing what he could do at that young age to earn money was to hustle, because he's not seeing images of young entrepreneurs or young business owners that look like him. The only thing what he's seen that looks like him, where they potentially earn money to supply his family, is through the music and through what he sees on the news of how they see us.
You know, so there's what you're saying there. I really agree with everything you're saying in terms of, you know, there are families who are unfortunate where it's probably just a parent family, and maybe because a lot of kids will go to school without anything to eat, and they probably would have had to do so much for the rest of their family because mum and dad is just not there, or for whatever reason. And I think that there are enough of us, especially if you're a woman and you're dealing with teenage boys and you feel like you feel overwhelmed. I think that some of the guys that you're talking to, I think you should invite them into your life, not on a romantic level, but as a friend. There are so many guys out there that can act as a father figure for your child. Do you know what I mean? If that person is a friend, you've got male people in your circle. I think that you can invite them into your child's life if you trust them in that way, and you don't have to be romantic with them, but just, you know, speak to my son, because it doesn't matter how much you know as a woman. When you're speaking to your son who's just seen some fluff on his chin, you know,
or a little bit lower,
or a little lower, and you know he's having all sorts of feelings, you know, only a man can talk to him about that. It could be something as slight as, I really like this girl, she can't, she can tell him from a woman's point of view, but she can't from a man's point of view. And I think that a lot of women has got a lot of men that are chatting to them, and they can just, switch the script and say, look, talk to my son.
I do mentoring in schools for young black boys, and
excellent.
One of the things that I always ask, one of the first questions is, what is life like at home? And that always gives me, a template from which to work from and help me to understand what I'm dealing with. And normally, obviously, it's mum's probably got 2 jobs, and they're living in a flat, or they're living in a one room, right? They've got little brothers and sisters, and they need help. There is a need for a lot of males to consider mentoring. I mean, I strongly encourage it. Part-time, to help a lot of these youngsters out who need an education, not just the education from school, but an education of life. Some of them are having problems with their own parents in dealing with them. Do you know there are some kids who go to school just so they don't have to be at home? That's how bad home life is for a lot of them. That school is a respite. And a lot of the times when school finishes, they're still hanging around 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, go home, get dinner just to go to bed because the situation at home is that unstable. So you're right. I think we do need more males to step up to mentor, and even women too, for the girls. I mean, our girls also need help, and I think we can do it. I think we can look at our current relationships, our current friends with with people of the opposite sex, and see whether or not that person can be helpful in talking to our son, our daughter, to sort of help them on the path.
We need to do that. We really, really need to do that. It takes a community to raise a child. So, we need to get out of the thinking that every man that's talking to you or every woman that's talking to you is a potential partner. How about them just being a potential friend? And, it would be great if you could talk to my son. Do you know what I mean? Well, or you can talk to my daughter.
I just want to say I just want to say to all the ladies, if you feel so that you don't sweet talk me and then come to ask me to come chat to your child, listen, when you're taking me up that stairs, it's your bedroom I want to see, not your son's bedroom. I'm letting you know.
See. Do not talk about the Indian them then, if that's what you're right?
Oh, Mr. C, you look so nice. Me like how you bed soft. You want to come to my house?
Come inside, and next thing I know, so this is my son Trevor. Hello, who's this one? I never come here for that. I'm playing.
On that note, thank you both. I've really enjoyed myself. Thank you for having me. Tony Crossbody, thank you very much. Very elegant. I think eloquent and elegant young man you are. And also Mr. C, very, very funny. So I guess, what a week. What is it called?
What a week.
What a week.
What a week.
What a show.
We should be here same time, same place next week.
Yeah. And a big round of applause for you, DJ Elaine, man. Thank you so much for holding the fort for us, man.
She'll be giving us autographs afterwards.
Yeah. I can't believe you're in your 50s and you got grandchildren.
Amazing.
I can't believe it.
Amazing.
I do.
Thank you, everyone in the chat.
That's what I used to look
Thank you for your contribution. Just the last comment, I want to respond to Yaya Idris T, who says, "We are lost." I would say partly, sir, but a remnant will be saved. So don't worry yourself.
That's it.
Do you know, the thing is, I just feel like we do support each other. I just feel like there's just more negatives talking about us than positives. And I welcome the 7th of the 7th, to really show our power then. It's all within our money. And we need to because what we need to remember is that shopkeepers, their prices can come down the more units they can buy. So if they can't sell out their units, they have to go and buy expensive. They might buy a 6 crate of something and have to sell it. Yeah, sell it at, but if they can buy a 2.6 crate, then it'll be cheaper. So anyway, I've just been told that the show done. So thank you all very, very much.
What a week. Bless up.
What a week.